the U.S. boldly declares, "We don't need Canada," but ends up begging Canada to build icebreakers for them. Imagine Trump standing center stage, hands pointing north, making a bold declaration. "We don't need anything from Canada. They only exist because of us." Sounds pretty impressive, right? Very America first. No need for Ontario's cars, British Columbia's softwood lumber, or Alberta's crude oil. On Truth Social, he declared, "We don't need anything Canada has," warning that without the U.S., Canada would cease to exist as a viable nation. It sounded like America was the god of survival. But what's the reality? For decades, the U.S. has been the world's largest importer of oil from Canada, around 4 million barrels per day, making up nearly 60% of total oil import. But fast forward to 2025, and the U.S. is shelling out $8.6 billion to expand its icebreaker fleet, only to realize that to meet deadlines and stay on budget, they have to order from the very Canada they once scorned. This isn't a tragedy, it's a political comedy of epic proportions. Trump promised America would be self-sufficient. U.S. construction gobbles up more than 25% of Canada's softwood lumber. Every year, millions of cars sold in the U.S. are assembled in Ontario. And let's not forget, New York and Vermont rely on cheap hydroelectric power from Canada. Trump may turn his back and say, "We don't need them." But the truth is, the U.S. and Canada are so tightly linked, they might as well be joined at the roots. America first might sound great on stage, but when the Arctic ice melts, the U.S. will discover just how much it truly needs Canada. As Arctic ice melts, new shipping routes are opening, making the region a strategic goldmine for the 21st century. Controlling the Arctic means controlling shipping lanes, oil and gas resources, minerals, and crucial military advantages. Russia isn't sitting idly by. They've been preparing for this moment for years, with around 40 to 57 icebreakers, including 6 of the world's most powerful nuclear-powered ones. According to a U.S. congressional report, CRS 2023, these ships can break through ice up to 2-3 m thick, truly steel monsters built to keep shipping lanes open year-round. Russia isn't just patrolling. They're building dozens of new bases along the Arctic coastline, setting up radar systems and airports, even planting flags at the Lomonosov Ridge seabed to claim resource-rich territory. China isn't far behind. They've dubbed themselves a near-Arctic nation. Don't ask how. With 4 icebreakers and investments in ports and shipping lanes, the Arctic has become a geopolitical chessboard where every major power is playing. But in the U.S., the self-proclaimed global military superpower, member of the Security Council, leader of the free world with 3 icebreakers, Polar Star, nearly 50 years old, Healy, mostly for scientific research and stories recently refinished. How does that stack up? Not, well, it's enough to put up a "We've got this" poster, but for year-round patrols, forget it. This is a strategic embarrassment. The U.S. Congress heard the news and had a fit, quickly passing something with a particularly grand name, Big Beautiful Bill, which frankly sounds like the U.S. is back on top. But this beautiful bill comes with a hefty price tag, $8.6 billion, to restore the Arctic power image. The problem, America first sounds great in theory, but in practice, it's tough. Building heavy-duty icebreakers isn't as easy as flipping burgers at McDonald's persons in a Taffly. U.S. shipyards are booked solid until 2030, while skilled workers are in short supply because older generations are retiring without enough younger workers to take their place. Part of this is due to strict immigration policies that limit skilled labor from overseas. On top of that, the supply chain is a mess after COVID-19 and trade wars, making materials and parts expensive, scarce, and slow to arrive. Polar security cutters require specialized reinforced hulls, thick ice-cutting bows, and advanced navigation systems. As a result, the Polar Security Cutter project, once slated for 2024 to 2025 delivery, has now been pushed to 2029 to 2030, with costs surging by 60% to $5.1 billion for 3 ships. Trump wanted to make America build again, but he forgot one small detail. America doesn't have enough workers or facilities to get the job done. Here's the twist. America needs icebreakers, but can't build them on time. So, they have to turn to Canada for help. Davie Shipbuilding, the oldest shipyard in North America, founded in 1825, is expanding. They've invested over $1 billion since 2012 to modernize. They plan to purchase 2 Texas shipyards, Gulf Copper and Manufacturing, with a $1 billion investment to build icebreaker hulls. They've bought Helsinki Shipyard in Finland for €77 million funded by Quebec's government. Their production model is clever. Hulls are built in Texas, made in the USA, but outfitting is completed in Helsinki, a place with centuries of icebreaker expertise. Result delivery times of 24-36 months, twice as fast as the US, and €235 million, euro per ship, much cheaper. Meanwhile, Canada is confidently investing $3.25 billion to build its own heavy-duty icebreakers. Not only will Canada have enough to defend itself, but they've also become the US's strategic partner in icebreaker production, turning Trump's insults into a lucrative contract. Now, the US wants 40 icebreakers. But the reality is, that's just a daydream, unless they cooperate with Canada. The Polar Security Cutter program aimed at building the heavy icebreakers to patrol the Arctic year-round has been delayed to 2029 to 2030. Costs are skyrocketing. Workers are in short supply and shipyards are completely booked. Meanwhile, Canada and Finland not only provide the icebreaker building capacity, but are actively collaborating with the US to develop a joint fleet, sharing designs, manpower, and intelligence to meet Arctic needs in the coming decades. But here's the catch. According to US law, if the US wants to contract foreign shipyards, it needs a presidential national interest waiver, meaning only the president can approve contracts with Canada. That's right. From, "We don't need them to please help us," all it takes is one signature. Canada wins big. Securing jobs for Quebec and Texas workers, attracting another $500 million in investment to the Layoffs shipyard and establishing itself as North America's icebreaker superpower. Meanwhile, the US learns a harsh lesson about America first. Sometimes the first has to be together if you don't want to end up last in the icy Arctic. From shouting, "We don't need Canada," to quietly turning to them for help building icebreakers. This story is a pricey reality check for Washington. For all the talk of America first, the truth is, sometimes America first has to come with together, or risk becoming last in the Arctic. The US is spending $8.66 billion to build a new fleet of icebreakers, but simply doesn't have the domestic capacity to get it done on time. That's where Canada steps in. With decades of experience in icebreaker construction and state-of-the-art shipyards, Canada has become an indispensable partner in maintaining America's Arctic power. In the end, politics isn't about tough talk. It's about facing facts. This isn't just a story about Arctic strategy. It's a reminder that even the useless neighbor you once mocked might just be the one keeping your ship afloat. With the latest move, Canada is steadfastly demanding $2 billion from tech giants like Amazon and Google, which has infuriated Trump. In just one tweet, he sacrificed a vital trade relationship with Canada, suspended all negotiations, and sparked a trade war. All this just to protect the pockets of billionaires, while millions of American families brace themselves to pay the bill for his wrath. Canada is resolute in standing its ground on the Digital Services Tax (DST) and is not backing down to U.S. pressure. This has enraged President Trump, who did not respond with a diplomatic statement, but with his keyboard on Truth Social. Not only did the president unilaterally declare an immediate halt to all trade talks with Canada, but he also issued an ultimatum as if talking to a colony rather than an ally. He would inform Canada of the tariffs they will have to pay to do business with the U.S. in the next 7 days. His rhetoric escalated to the absurd, labeling a tax policy designed to protect citizens in a G7 nation as a direct and brazen attack on the U.S. It's hard not to laugh at this. A country taxing multinational corporations to fund public services being equated with an act of war. In stark contrast to the explosion from the South, Ottawa's response was calm, almost mocking. Prime Minister Mark Carney's office simply issued a statement that they will continue complex negotiations with the U.S. for the benefit of workers and businesses. One side screams about a tax while the other calmly talks about complex negotiations. Clearly, this is the contrast between a tantrum and maturity on the global stage. In the complex world of diplomacy, sometimes the biggest crises stem not from strategic calculations, but from something much simpler, an injured ego. This trade war is a bitter reminder of that. It's not a geopolitical chess game. It's a tantrum broadcast globally. Earlier, things could have played out in a civilized manner. On the sidelines of the G7 summit in Alberta, Canada extended an olive branch, proposing a 30-day negotiation timeline. Yet, even in these diplomatic efforts, an unspoken truth surfaced. On the sidelines of the summit, Trump bluntly admitted the irreconcilable differences in his philosophy. Mark Carney and I have different views. I still like tariffs. This was not a negotiation tactic. It was a confession of a rigid mindset, a belief that tariffs are the magic hammer to fix all problems. He could say a deal is possible, but always with the condition that tariffs must still play a significant role, something Canada strongly opposes. The foundation for conflict had already been laid, just waiting for an excuse to explode. And that excuse came in the form of a reasonable tax policy that touched Trump's pain. To anyone with a logical mindset, this is a fair policy. But for Donald Trump, this was an unacceptable betrayal. Why? First, it directly hits the wallets of Silicon Valley tech giants. Perhaps the slogan America First quickly transformed into Big Tech First when a $2 billion tax bill was placed on the table. When a populist leader who once loudly declared he would make big corporations pay fair taxes now wields the tariff hammer to protect those same corporations from a reasonable tax abroad. It's clear that he's not acting like a president protecting the national economy, but rather like a personal lawyer defending the profits of his wealthy Silicon Valley clients. His decision reveals a sad truth. U.S. foreign policy can easily be bent by phone calls from powerful CEOs rather than the real needs of the American people. Second, and more importantly, it directly challenges Trump's America First ideology. In his worldview, American companies are symbols of America's strength and dominance. For another country, especially a small neighbor like Canada, to dare impose taxes on these symbols is almost a personal affront to him. The bitter irony lies in the fact that Trump, who worships tariffs as the ultimate weapon to bully other nations, cannot tolerate a country applying its own tax to protect its own interests. For Trump, only his tariffs are legitimate. Other counts' taxes are an attack. When a leader is driven by ego and special interests, they fail to see the bigger picture. Trump only sees the $2 billion while ignoring national security and economic stability. Waging war on Canada, America's second-largest trade partner, is a self-inflicted wound. It's a decision that shows a profound lack of understanding of the interdependent relationships that have shaped America's prosperity and security. And the price for this tantrum isn't measured in abstract numbers on a trade balance. It's measured in the dollars taken from the wallet of American families in the anxiety and insecurity creeping into every home. Trump's tweet set off an economic domino effect, and those standing at the end of the line, the most vulnerable, will bear the hardest impact. The retaliatory tariffs on Canada are not just a policy, they are a direct shock to America's energy lifeblood. It's the concern of a worker watching the gas gauge hit the red line in their morning commute, wondering if they'll have enough money until the weekend. It's the cold creeping into a retiree's home as they tighten their spending with utility bills skyrocketing in the winter. With 85% of electricity and 60% of crude oil imported from Canada, any tariffs will instantly become a tax directly hitting American citizens. A financial burden felt in every aspect of life, from travel costs to the price of goods transported. The next hit goes straight to the foundation of family stability. A roof over your head. Canada is the top supplier of lumber and building materials for the U.S. housing market. It's estimated that building a single-family home in the U.S. now requires nearly $53,000 worth of lumber, tripling in price over the past year. U.S. production only meets 70% of domestic demand, and Canada fills much of the gap. Tariffs will drive construction costs up, making the American dream of home ownership farther out of reach for the middle class and young families. It turns the American dream into an exclusive privilege for the wealthy, rather than a goal achievable through hard work. And for millions of renters, already sky-high rents will have another reason to rise, placing immense pressure on low and middle-income individuals. As energy prices rise, housing costs soar, and the prices of basic items like cars and appliances due to steel and aluminum tariffs increase, an inflation storm will brew. It erodes purchasing power, making hard-earned wages worth less. But more dangerous than inflation is the threat of job losses. Small manufacturing businesses in the Rust Belt, who once voted for Trump, hoping to be protected, will be the first to collapse when input costs become too much to bear, leading to hundreds of thousands of job losses and rising living costs, especially with Trump's announcement to impose tariffs on many other countries. The inflation wave could worsen. When the curtain falls, the last question remains: who pays for this impulsiveness? The scorecard is bitter. Canada, with its calm demeanor, wins without a fight, still walking away with $2 billion. Meanwhile, tech corporations gain a powerful protector. The real losers are the American people who foot the bill through higher energy bills, gas prices, and the looming risk of job loss. Well, the America First policy has become the American people pay the price, a testament to how a leader's ego has been placed above the economic safety of an entire nation. In the end, this trade war is not Trump fighting Canada, but the Trump administration waging war on the wallets and economic safety of the very American families he vowed to protect. The gold shock, totaling 1,300 tons worth over $245 billion, could soon evaporate from the U.S. amid Trump's tariff storm. Germany and Italy seem to have found Washington's self-destruct button, exerting unprecedented financial pressure. This isn't just a request, it's an unexpected blow, a financial punch aimed squarely at Washington, especially amid the Trump administration's wielding of tariffs on the global trade stage. History is full of strange loops. Germany and Italy, the second and third largest holders of gold reserves in the world, 3,352 tons and 2,452 tons, respectively, behind only the U.S., once stored over a third of their gold in the vaults of New York. This Cold War-era strategy was designed to ensure the liquidity of the dollar during times of crisis. Since then, the U.S. was seen as the trusted vault keeper, with New York being the bustling gold trading hub. But times have changed, especially with the U.S. president whose policies are unpredictable. Imagine German Chancellor Merz, a figure generally seen as moderate, suddenly realizing that the country's thousands of tons of gold bars are not just a form of collateral, but could also be a powerful bargaining chip. In the context of the Trump administration preparing new surprises in the form of tariffs targeting Germany's exports, the idea of quietly bringing the gold back home suddenly becomes a boost to Berlin's negotiating position. In Germany, the idea of repatriating gold reserves has received support from both the right and the left. Peter Geuler, former member of the Christian Social Union, CSU in Bavaria, emphasized that the German central bank Bundesbank should not be complacent in protecting the country's gold reserves. Facing both internal and external challenges, Merz's tougher stance, at least on paper, regarding gold is a politically wise move to calm domestic opinion while subtly reminding Washington. In southern Europe, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is also in a tough position. On one hand, she must try to ease the escalating trade tensions with the U.S. government, particularly regarding tariffs on steel and aluminum. On the other hand, she carries the promise made while in opposition to bring gold back to Rome in 2019. However, since taking office as Prime Minister of Italy in late 2022, Meloni has not mentioned this issue again. The fact that Germany and Italy, two close allies, suddenly want to withdraw their gold from the Fed's vault is not just a matter of logistics or storage. It is an alarming signal, one that could potentially cause real tremors in the U.S. economy, a situation that even an administration proud of its economic indicators, like Trump's, would have to grapple with. Imagine this. When major countries start pulling their gold back, trust in the U.S. financial system will surely be shaken. According to the CBO, based on federal revenue ratios, federal interest rates are projected to rise to 18.4% by the end of 2025, surpassing the previous high set in 1991. This figure is expected to reach 22.2% by 2035. Even without factoring in interest payments, the federal government will still be spending more money than it collects, creating a structural issue in the budget. The increase in debt due to this structural gap is further exacerbated by rising interest payments, which could jeopardize other priorities and potentially lead to a financial crisis.